Today, the national capital of the United States of America is Washington, D.C. Chosen as the site for the U.S. Capitol through the Residence Act of 1790, the city's location along the Potomac River was selected for its strategic centrality between the North and the South, and to symbolize a fresh beginning for the new nation. But we will learn more about this further ahead. The move to Washington, D.C. was completed in 1800, with President John Adams becoming the first president to reside in the White House, marking the city's start as the permanent seat of the federal government. However, John Adams was only the second U.S. president, so where did the first one, George Washington, rule the country from? In addition, Washington, D.C. was the definitive capital of the U.S., with 8 other cities serving as temporary ones before it. Why was that the case, and which cities were those? In this video, we're going to learn about the historical temporary capitals of the United States. Our story begins in the late 18th century, a time of great upheaval and transformation. At this time, still British, American colonies were in the midst of a struggle for independence from colonial rule. The Revolutionary War, which started in 1775, was a fight for freedom and self-determination, but it wasn't just the battlefields that saw action. The fledgling government had to stay one step ahead of the British forces, leading to a series of relocations for the national capital. The Second Continental Congress was the governing body that led the American colonies through the Revolutionary War, and it was this body that needed a seat, somewhere to meet and rule the new country from. A side note, in case you are confused as to why the first governing body had second as a title, it's because the First Continental Congress took place while the 13 colonies were still under British rule, marking the first step in their journey of discontent, which would end up leading to revolution. It formally declared that colonists should have the same rights as Englishmen, and the colonial representatives also agreed to form the Continental Association, which called for the suspension of trade with Great Britain. But anyway, back to this Second Continental Congress, which already ruled a sovereign rebelling nation. Convening in 1775, this Congress acted as the national government, making crucial decisions and coordinating the war efforts. As one of the largest and most important cities in the colonies, Philadelphia was a natural choice to be the first city to serve as the capital, and they began meeting here from May 10 of 1775. This Second Continental Congress made monumental decisions, such as the adoption of the Declaration of Independence on July 4th of 1776, a document which not only declared the colony's independence from Britain, but also articulated the fundamental principles of liberty and equality that would shape the new nation. It placed Philadelphia at the heart of the revolutionary movement, but the city's strategic importance also made it a target for British forces. When British General William Howe captured Philadelphia in September of 1777, the Congress had to flee, highlighting the precarious position of the revolutionary government. It's interesting to wonder how, if it hadn't, Philadelphia may very well have remained the national capital forever. The city was chosen because it was a central, populous, and economically significant location. It was also a hub of revolutionary activity and sentiment, and nothing indicates the initial choice having a temporary status to begin with. However, fate made it so. On December 20, 1776, the Congress relocated to Baltimore in Maryland. This move was a strategic decision to avoid the British threat. Baltimore provided a safe haven, but once the British were pushed back, the Congress returned to Philadelphia on March 4, 1777. However, the safety in Philadelphia was short-lived. The British captured the city in September, forcing the Congress to flee once more. Their next stop was Lancaster, Pennsylvania, but this was only a one-day stay on September 27, 1777. Imagine the chaos of having to constantly move around a government, its staff, paperwork, it must have been extremely messy, and it's honestly impressive that they managed to keep running a country under those conditions, let alone a new country in the midst of a revolutionary war. From there, the Congress moved to York, Pennsylvania, where they remained from September 30 of 1777 to June 27 of the next year. York offered a more secure location while the British occupied Philadelphia. Once the British left, the Congress once again returned to Philadelphia on July 2nd and stayed there until the Articles of Confederation were ratified in 1781. While being ratified in Philadelphia, many of them were also written in York. The Articles of Confederation were essentially the first constitution of the United States, designed to establish a confederation of sovereign states with a not too interfering central government. Its main points were that each state retained its sovereignty, freedom, and independence. The central government had limited authority, mainly in areas of diplomacy, currency, defense, and foreign affairs. However, it lacked the power to levy taxes, regulate interstate commerce, or enforce laws directly on the states or individuals. Also, the creation of the Congress of the Confederation, the national government, which at this time consisted of a single house legislature where each state had one vote, regardless of size or population. And also the non-existence of an executive or judicial branch. There was no separate executive branch to enforce laws or a national judiciary to interpret them. These functions were to be left to the states. After serving as the place where this new document was approved, Philadelphia continued to serve as the capital, but it wouldn't be long before the Congress was on the move again. But strangely, this time, it wasn't the British who were at fault, at least not directly. In June of 1783, American soldiers demanding their pay threatened the seating government in Philadelphia. Frustrated by their unmet financial promises, the soldiers and some of their officers considered a coup to force Congress to address their grievances. The crisis highlighted the weakness of the Articles of Confederation, particularly the inability to levy taxes and regulate commerce, which led to economic difficulties and political instability, highlighting the need for a stronger central government, which led to the writing of the current US Constitution in replacement, but that's still to come. General George Washington intervened, urging the soldiers to maintain faith in the government, which helped diffuse the situation. Regardless, to escape the unrest, the Congress moved to Princeton, New Jersey, on June 30 of 1783, and Princeton provided a temporary refuge until November 4th of that year. Next up was Annapolis, Maryland, where the Congress convened from November 26, 1783 to August 19, 1784. Annapolis was chosen for its central location and relative safety. Here, George Washington famously resigned his commission as Commander-in-Chief of the Continental Army, a pivotal moment in American history, given that he voluntarily relinquished power, setting a powerful precedent for civilian control of the military and the peaceful transfer of power principles that remain core to American democracy. Following Annapolis, the Congress moved to Trenton, New Jersey from November 1st, 1784 to December 24th of 1784. Like previous moves, this was a temporary solution while a more permanent capital was sought. Finally, New York became the capital on January 11, 1785. The city offered more amenities and was a significant commercial hub. New York remained the capital under the Articles of Confederation until the US Constitution was ratified in 1789. The US Constitution then established a new framework for the federal government, leading to the formation of the United States Congress. With the new constitution in place, the search for a permanent capital continued. However, temporarily under the new government, New York City continued to serve as the capital from March 4th of 1789 to December 5th of 1790. The city was already well established, making it a logical choice for the young nation. But as you know, the story doesn't end here. The Residence Act of 1790 designated Philadelphia as the temporary capital while a new federal city was being built along the Potomac River. It's quite odd why this change took place. New York was already a temporary capital, yet the government felt the need to move to another temporary capital before settling in the permanent one. And so, Philadelphia, the first capital of the United States, served once again as the capital from December 6 of 1790 to May 14 of 1800, the final of the temporary capitals of the country. Perhaps its temporary move back there was simply that, symbolic, but a few reasons can be speculated. Like security and logistics, Philadelphia was a more secure and established location for conducting the nation's business. It offered better infrastructure and accommodations for the government, and was centrally located relative to the states, which made it more accessible for representatives traveling from various regions. In addition, there were at the time significant health and social issues in New York which could disrupt government operations, like a yellow fever outbreak in 1790, which created an unhealthy environment. This public health concern likely influenced the decision to relocate to Philadelphia. During its final stint as the capital, Philadelphia was a bustling hub of political activity. It was here that the Bill of Rights was ratified in 1791, securing fundamental liberties for American citizens. Meanwhile, the new capital of Washington, D.C. was under construction. Like I mentioned at the start, the city's location along the Potomac River was selected for its strategic centrality between North and South. But this wasn't just a pretty symbolic thing. Behind it was a real political compromise. The decision was brokered between Thomas Jefferson, Alexander Hamilton, and James Madison, three very known figures of American history. Hamilton wanted the federal government to assume state debts from the Revolutionary War, which was supported by many Southern leaders. In exchange for Southern support, a deal was struck to locate the new capital in a more central location, balancing the interests of northern and southern states. Named after George Washington, the city was designed to be the permanent home of the federal government, a neutral ground not belonging to any state. DC is often added when referring to it, as it is part of its official name, Washington District of Columbia. The term district refers to the fact that Washington, D.C. is not a state, but a separate federal district. The U.S. Constitution in Article 1, Section 8 grants Congress the authority to create a federal district that is distinct from the states to serve as the nation's capital. This arrangement was designed to ensure that the capital would not be a part of any single state and would be under the direct jurisdiction of the federal government. It is said that the name Columbia was chosen to honor Christopher Columbus, the Italian explorer who is often credited with being the first European to arrive in America. Designed by French engineer Pierre-Charles L'Enfant, the city was envisioned as a grand and orderly capital reflecting the aspirations of the new nation. When the government finally moved in 1800, the city was very much still in development, and so on November 17, 1800, Washington, D.C. officially became the capital of the United States. The move marked the end of the capital's journey and the beginning of a new era for the nation. Despite its humble beginnings, Washington, D.C. grew rapidly. The War of 1812 saw the city burned by British forces, but it was quickly rebuilt, symbolizing the resilience and determination of the American spirit. There's even an iconic painting of the White House in flames from that time. Today, Washington, D.C. stands as a testament to American democracy and also as a piece of history, representing the move from all of those cities to this one. The White House, the Capitol, and numerous other iconic buildings serve as reminders of the nation's history and its ongoing journey. From Philadelphia to Washington, D.C., the journey of U.S. capitals reflects the tumultuous early years of the United States. Each move was driven by necessity, security, and the evolving needs of a young nation finding its place in the world. Philadelphia, Baltimore, Lancaster, York, Princeton, Annapolis, Trenton, New York City, and finally Washington, D.C., each of these cities played a crucial role in the formation and development of the United States. They were more than just locations, they were witnesses to history, each contributing to the story of American independence and governance. Thanks so much for watching this video, and thank you to ClioVis for being a partner and official sponsor of this first season of my new All About America series. Their software is super cool, allowing you to build detailed and visual appealing timelines like the one I used for this video. I invite you to try it out for yourself if you're a student, teacher, or just someone who loves to learn in a visual way. Remember to subscribe to catch the next episode, and I will see you next time for more general knowledge.